Okay, so the next thing I want to do is something that you'll use a lot, and that is using the ROI tool, or the region of interest tool. So let me close down one of these. So as I said earlier, if you have a small image, then you will only have two boxes. Zoom in, zoom out. Okay, so ROI tool is a really nice way. Firstly, you need to use it for classification, but secondly, if you're interested in getting a spectrum from cell types which are the same, or disease types which are the same. So the way you do this is we go back to this right-click menu, and then we go to ROI tool, and it brings up this ROI toolbox. So the first thing you'll notice is we have the ability to click on image, scroll, or zoom. And what this is it determines which of these bands, or sorry, which of these images we're going to be drawing the ROIs on. So in our case, we're in the zoom box rather than the band box. So if we wanted to draw on here, we would select image, I think image. Yes. If you want to draw on here, so you'll see that doesn't draw anything in our zoom box. So we'll click on zoom, and now we can draw on here. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is we'll click on zoom, and then we'll determine the ROI name. So you can have multiple classes. So for example, we'll have a lymphocyte class. Click tab, and then you want to pick a color. We'll pick blue. And what this will tell you then is the number of pixels and polygons or polylines or points which you have selected. We'll create a new region. We'll call this stroma. We're going to have magenta. Okay. So there's a few ways of drawing ROI tools. The first is you can do a polygon, and this is where you basically draw a polygon, and you can select everything that was within that polygon. You can do a polyline, so just a single line, or a point. If you're doing large areas of tissue with multiple pixels, I recommend polygon. It's much faster. If you need to be very, very accurate and are picking just a few cell types, or a few pixels, sorry, then you want to click on point. So we'll do polygon first. So the way this works is we click, draw around, click, move, click, click, click. And then when you have your polygon, you then right click, and then right click again, and it fills all these in. So you can see we've selected 1764 pixels within this box. If you want to delete this, you just middle click. If you want to do lymphocytes instead, just click on lymphocytes, right click, and you'll see that it does lymphocytes. So to delete, again, middle click the scrolling mouse button. One thing I want to just say, oh actually I'll say this first. So you can do point, and again this just does single points. Okay, with this, again, you got to keep the middle mouse button down, and you have to go across and do this manually. One thing to say as well is if you are in the polygon mode and you want to delete ROIs which have been created in the pixel mode, you can't do this. You have to flip back across to point and then delete. See, we can't delete this, but then when we click across to polygon, we can now delete it. Okay, so that's how you create ROIs. Okay, so let me just draw a few here. We'll do polygon, and then we'll do lymphocytes. This doesn't correlate to anything. Okay, so when you create ROIs, one thing that's very important to remember is to save the ROIs. This is one of the only things actually in NVIDIA which does not save automatically. So make sure you save. One of the problems with the bioengineering PCs is often on a Tuesday night the PCs will reboot without telling you. You will lose all your ROIs, so make sure you save them regularly. Okay. Is there anything else I need to tell you? You can do things like band threshold to ROI. So if you want to create ROIs which are specific to pixels which have an absorbance over a certain amount at a certain band, you can do this. So for example, if you want to create an ROI for 921, anything that absorbs at 921, click OK. And then you can specify minimum and maximum threshold values. So for example, if you want anything that's between one absorbance unit and 2, you can put 1 and 2. And it'll tell you actually there's no pixels, which is good. Okay. You can also, so one thing you do want to do actually is band threshold to ROI. And again, this will depend on your sample, but so that you're only taking, when you calculate the average spectrum across these regions, one thing that you want to do is make sure you're only taking spectra forward which have an absorbance which is sufficient. So you don't want to just collect pixels which are too high or too low. So this is actually where you'll use band threshold to ROI. So for example, we'll go down to something like 1650, click OK, and then we'll say something like 0.03. Oops, this isn't a good sample to show you on. And then 10, click OK. It'll tell you if you found 16,000 points. So you'll see that some of these points haven't been taken back, so this means that some of these points are not good. Typically, if you're doing something like tissue microarrays, you want all the background that's not core to be black. You don't want that to be taken back. So what we'll call this is our threshold. And then what you can do is improve this. So for example, if you only want to identify pixels which you've marked as lymphocytes and that meet this threshold level, what you need to do is to go to Options, Intersect Regions, and then you intersect the two regions. So for example, lymphocytes and threshold. Click OK, and what you'll get is we'll call this lymphocyte thresh. So actually, all the pixels we identified originally, all 1,728, are still actually good. They pass this threshold test, so that's good. Is there anything else we need to show? I think that's everything. You can merge regions if you wish. You can create class images if you wish. Okay. The next thing then we want to do is, let me get rid of these for the time being. Delete ROI. Delete ROI. Okay. One of the most common things you're going to do, so this you'll use these ROI files for the classification. But one of the things you will do is, you'll probably most want to do, is to find out what is the average spectrum across each class. So for this, you go to ROI Tools, Average ROI Spectra. And then, by the way, so you can actually transfer these ROIs across multiple images if your X and Y dimensions are the same. So if you have, for example, a non-MNF version and an MNF version, but they have the same spatial dimensions, you can open these ROIs on either file. So it gives you that option. So for example, we'll go our reverse to MNF, click OK. Then we can click on our two ROIs. You can use it as a single plot or a separate plot. We'll do it as a single plot. Click OK. And then it'll calculate our average spectra across the class. And then you can do File, Save Plot as, ASCII2.